All right, so you run a business and you know that businesses rely on customers. Customers are everything. If you don't have customers, then you have no one to give you money, and then you don't have a business because you have no revenue coming in. And so what most people don't understand is that you can have a lot of different customers. You can have good customers, you can have bad customers, but 100 bad customers is way worse than one good customer. And that's what a lot of people don't really understand, is the difference between the two is literally everything, night and day. And so if you could choose, of course, you'd like more of the good and less of the bad. And so in this video, we're going to break down exactly what makes a bad customer, what makes a good customer, and how you can find your next $1 million customer that you can just copy and paste a bunch of because, they're good and not bad. And you like good people. So here we go. Let's get to it. Hi, I'm Marcel Sikowski. My team and I currently solve the customer problem for businesses across Chicagoland doing over $100 million in annual revenue combined. And in this video, I'm going to teach you exactly what we do for these businesses completely for free. So let's get to it. Bad customers. You're wasting your time, your money, and your energy. Let's get that straight. On the wrong customers, because you can have someone come into your business, but of course, if they're stingy about giving you $1 because something is just not perfectly right, well, if you have 100 of these people causing those same micro problems within your day-to-day of the business, you're probably just gonna run into more and more issues on the back end, operationally, in your marketing, in your financials. They call it the stem of most problems. People are the main reason most businesses fail. And so the customers are typically what people overlook. And so let's get to it. Let's break down what makes a bad customer and what makes a good customer. All right, so let's break it down into two categories. We'll make it super simple. So you have your bad customers. These are the ones no one wants, but some people actually can't even differentiate the two, which is actually the main thing holding them back. And then over here, we have good customers. And so we're gonna break down what makes what. And so the number one thing that people just, for some reason, they understand this is a problem, but they just don't actually take action on it. And that is that these people are cheap. They want to spend the least amount of money, no questions asked. They don't have any regard for the value they're actually receiving, and they just want to keep every single penny. Now, on the flip side, we have people who are value driven. And so the reason I obsess over value-driven customers is because you can sell them almost anything. And what I mean by that is, let's say I have this marker right here, right? And so, of course, people who want a marker that writes on a board, and I tell them you can buy this for 1 cent. The bad customers will come to me and be like, well, listen, down the street, there was a guy that sold me 2 for 1 cent. And so, boom, problem. I don't want to deal with him. When it comes to good, the nice thing about this is I can actually say that this marker is $100. And the person won't immediately go, whoa, wait, what? Right? Stop, think, hold on a minute. They won't do any of that. You might catch them by surprise. But if you tell them that this marker can cure world hunger and make them $100 every single second that they're alive, well then, boom, this is a value-driven customer. And then you'll be able to sell this marker for $100. And so maybe you'll see where I'm going with this, but this is the main thing that separates a bad customer from a good customer. So what if I told you there's actually no other parts to a bad customer or a good customer? Everything stems from being value-driven and everything stems from being cheap. Let me explain. People who are more likely to be value-oriented or value-driven have a higher perceived likelihood of trust because in the past, they've taken higher value opportunities, products, services. They've paid more per that service, right, with their cash. They've paid more in cash, and they've received more of what they like, right? And so what you have in cheap is distrust. And this is probably going to throw people for a loop, but this is the main root of all the problem. And so the reason this distrust stems from being cheap is because typically when they're price haggling, what happens is people are willing to go back and forth with these people and just land the sale. And so let's just say you're getting a window tint job, right? And so what this person really wants to do is just get the window tint for as cheap as possible. And so the provider, which is the service provider, will say, hey, listen, I'll do it for this price and you'll have window tint. But doesn't explain that, hey, you're going to have bubbling, you're going to have peeling edges, you're going to have fade. It's not UV resistant. So the person is now like, oh, what the heck? I just spent $99 on like absolutely a full SUV worth of window tint, and it's already bubbling, it's already peeling, and all this kind of stuff. And then what happens is what we have here, distrust, because they don't trust anybody. They think everybody does poor work, but that's because they just don't want to pay for the value. And so now what that leads you to, and I'll explain why just these 4 points are so important, is that people like this who understand value and trust your business are more willing to refer you more customers. And so for you, that's awesome because you have more customers coming in. It's an exponential growth to your business because one happy customer means 2 more happy customers because those 2 came from that one happy individual. But over here, you just have problems. And so you never get more customers because this guy doesn't refer you anybody. They just, haggle about how long something takes. The quality is just not to their liking. And over here, they understand the value they're getting. So they understand that if it takes a shorter amount of time, of course, the job isn't going to be as quality. If it takes longer, of course, there's more time to pay attention to the small details and all this sort of stuff. And so now if we actually go and restart and try to develop what I like to call a customer profile, it's very important that you define the perfect person you want to deal with, because as soon as you start slacking on some things, that's where typically the problems start to arise. So let's just say you have a detailing shop, and so you run, let's just call it like daily detail. And so daily detail here wants customers, just like anybody else in this world. And so, of course, they only operate out of a local vicinity. And in our case, let's just use Chicago. People come for details, ceramic coatings and all that sort of aesthetic work. They're willing to travel. So be it, they get a good price, and also the value is there. And so that's one thing, is location, right? If you're going to start taking in jobs from Milwaukee, which, for those who don't know, is a town that's 2 hours north of Chicago, well, now you have people that are not ideal because they have to drive further away. They might have options that are closer to Milwaukee. And so it might cause more problems in that sort of sense. Now, location is very important for service or local businesses because, of course, your customer's not local. You literally cannot serve them. Now, the next is, of course, budget, right? If your services start, let's just say $5.99, right? That is your foot in the door offer for, let's just call it, a full paint decontamination and paint correction, right? And for those who don't know, that's when you just clean up the paint and make it look brand new. And so this is a monetary restriction. So this was just, we'll use simple terms here, budget, right? You need to have this amount of money to work with us. And so, of course, if you don't have the people with $5.99 to use your services, you're going to get bad customers, the cheap people, the people that only have $4.50 to spend. And the hardest thing that business owners have to understand is that you have to say no to some money. And I know it's hard, especially for those new business owners that don't really have experience with this, but you will learn quickly that money is not all good. I'll put it this way. If you run this shop, right, and so you get, you have one customer that pays you $1,000 for full front-end PPF, right? And so you have one customer. Let's just actually draw him. I'm an expert drawer, so here we go. And this guy has $1,000. And he pays for a front PPF, and he is an excellent customer. He has the budget. And so what ends up happening here is he causes no problems. He refers you more customers, and your business grows, right? There's no disruption in your day-to-day operations. So you just made yourself $1,000. However, we have devil's advocate here, and we have the bad customers. And this is where we're going to put an X on their face because we don't like these people. And so you got 3 of them because you lowered your price, right? So you now have 3 people, but you lowered your price. And so now all these people combined give you $1,500. Fundamentals of business, you understand that there's a cost of goods sold. You have to pay for, labor. If you're installing front-end PPF, you need guys to install that for you. You also need the material. You need shop supplies, all that sort of stuff. So you understand that eats into your margin, especially when you lower your price so much. What happens here, though, is the same person comes in for PPF. And instead of 3 check marks, you instead get more problems, right? Each customer causes you more problems. They don't refer you other customers because they were, not treated to the level of this customer. And the worst part these people don't grow your business, right? People think, oh, more customers means more business. That's not always the case. Because actually, if you're dealing with so many day-to-day problems from people that just want to, cause problems over a slight edge or something that may be wrong with the vehicle, or let's just say they didn't want to do a paint correction before their PPF, and then they're like, why is my paint swirly, right? Why do I see swirl marks? Well, that just causes more problems. They're not likely to refer you other people because they're dissatisfied, although they didn't listen to your instructions. And at the very end of the day, it doesn't grow your business. So it's very important that, you find the people that match your qualifications. And here I have only 2 listed. I know businesses in Chicago that have 100 of these. And that sounds absolutely bizarre, but that's how specific you have to get. You have to be extremely picky with who you want to serve, because there's enough revenue, there's enough money, there's enough people in this world where you can be extremely hyper niche. And I mean, like, you can only serve one avatar, one type of car. Sure, your total addressable market, which is the amount of people you can serve and provide your service to, is smaller when you get more niche, right? And you add these all qualifications. But I promise you that it's so worth it, especially if you're starting out, because this right here will limit your business tremendously. So avoid those people at all costs. I hope this helped. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And let's then figure out how to make your first unbelievable offer so you can sell your $1,000 front-end PPF for $1,000.